President Balbino, Director General Michael Koller, Royal Highness Princess Maxima, Commissioner Barnier, representatives and members of Insurance Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Please accept my apologies that I cannot join you today in Amsterdam as I originally intended. My presence in my constituency was absolutely mandatory. However, to my surprise, being in two places at the same time is literally almost possible, thanks to the video technique and the organizational efforts by Insurance Europe. The conference heading Global Markets, Global Risks directly points to the challenging market conditions insurance and reinsurance companies all over the world have to deal with. A difficult economic situation has led to a less predictable, more volatile market environment, which naturally interferes with the long-term perspective of insurance and reinsurance business. Insurances in Europe, America and Asia share the concern that a great engagement in long-term investment might in the end not result in the benefits they had originally expected or hoped for. And politicians in Europe, America and Asia share the concern that insurances might be driven to rely more on short-term investment scenarios and in consequence retrieve from their stabilizing role in a globalized financial world. In the end, we share the same concerns which are to be addressed in the revision of the Solvency II framework via the Omnibus II directive. Last year's conference in Greece put a question to the audience vote on what is the biggest challenge in regulation. Almost 60% of the participants replied by saying avoiding over-regulation. A fair result, I would say, but still alarming. I very much hope the skepticism did not increase over the past 12 months. As Rapporteur and Chief Negotiator of the European Parliament on the Omnibus II directive, I assure you that over-regulation is not in our intention. Solvency II provides us for the first time with an integrated, harmonized set of rules for insurance and reinsurance regulation, which gives new priority to the undertaking-specific appreciation of risk. Large parts of Solvency II have been subject to 5 impact assessments. The fear of the unknown is no longer a legitimate excuse. We have to set Solvency II on track. And Omnibus II is the appropriate tool to do so in the light of the current fragile market conditions. The amendments to the Solvency II framework will include prescriptions which intend to alleviate some pain coming from the excessive market volatility. Furthermore, there will be transitional measures meant to facilitate the launch of new regulatory requirements. Let me make a few comments on the current state of play of the legislation. To start with, first, where do we come from? Initially, Omnibus II was meant to be a mere technical adjustment to the Solvency II directive. On the one hand, the Lisbonization of the framework directive was still pending, and on the other hand, the establishment of the new European supervisory authorities called for adaptations. Among them, EIOPA, as newly set up, powerful, competent authority for insurance and occupational pensions. The primary goal seemed to be the adjustment of the implementation measures to the Lisbon Treaty, as well as the clarification where and to what extent EIOPA will be granted with intervention rights. Secondly, where do we stand today? The technical questions naturally remain, but the benchmark for the Omnibus II project is now considerably higher. Key amendments were added, in particular on long-term guarantees, third country equivalents, and specific transitional measures to ensure a soft launch towards the new Solvency II system. In the legislative procedure, we have almost reached the final stage. The Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee voted on 21st of March, providing me and my colleagues with a broad majority and clear mandate on the Parliament's demands. The three EU institutions are currently engaged in trilogue negotiations in order to achieve an agreement on the outstanding issues. All parties involved committed themselves to proceed quickly and make great efforts to conclude on a compromise text. The plenary vote has been tentatively scheduled for September this year. Essential progress was already made on the implementation and application date of Solvency II. Since the beginning of this year, the European Parliament repeatedly has called on the European Commission to make use of its right to initiate legislation and to reconsider the dates for implementation and entry into force envisioned in the Framework Directive. On the 16th of May, the proposal of a so-called Quick Fix Directive has been launched. The implementation is now foreseen for 30th of June next year. The application shall start as from 1st of January 2014. The Parliament's call for a quick fix was motivated by the intention to avoid a potential legal gap when Solvency I is repealed, but Solvency II not yet transposed to national law. And even more important has been the Parliament's aim to provide the insurance and the reinsurance sector and the supervisory authorities with a reliable planning horizon to facilitate their preparedness for the new regulatory framework. Third, where do we want to head with Omnibus II? The European Parliament underlined in its report on Omnibus II that it is our intention to establish a set of rules that firstly ensures that political contents are addressed at the level of the Framework Directive, that secondly respects the basic principles of practicability and proportionality, and that thirdly keeps volatility in technical provisions and own funds manageable, and fourthly includes transitional arrangements which challenge but do not overburden market participants and supervisors. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of Solvency II is in close distance. Figuratively spoken, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Please be assured that no one involved in this project intends to build a new tunnel. I'm confident that the final steps will be taken with prudence and determination. Being aware of the current crisis, management needs in financial markets, there are still great efforts required by the parties involved, be it the politics, regulatory authorities, and insurance and reinsurance undertakings. Let us all ensure that the transition to a new age of insurance regulation is going to become a smooth landing. I wish you all an enjoyable and constructive day in Amsterdam. My apologies again for not being with you, and thank you very much for your attention.